So I want to thank Dr. Shah, as I mentioned before, for testifying. And he only had a short time with us, but it's obvious that the USAID is an enormous task in dealing with the crisis in Haiti, and it's working very hard to address the problems. In March of this year, I visited Haiti to bear witness to the horrific loss of life and devastation which befell the country on January the 12th. I surveyed the damage done to the land and physical structures of Haiti. It was my intention then and remains my profound wish that the people of Haiti know that the United States is committed to help them rebuild their nation. As chairman of the Western Hemisphere Subcommittee of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, I want to determine what more America can provide to help Haitians recover from this tragedy and emerge as a stronger nation. As the representative from the 17th District of New York, which is my district, and we have a large community of Haitian Americans. I believe we have the fourth largest population of Haitian Americans in my district of any of the 435 districts in the country. So I have one of the largest Haitian communities. And we mentioned, as Dr. Shah mentioned, that it's very important to coordinate everything we do in Haiti with the Haitian American community. So I want to experience firsthand what happened to their homeland and to help bring back answers to my constituents. As a human being, I want to see the faces of the victims of this earthquake and to offer whatever assistance I could provide them. Haiti will recover, and America will be standing side by side with our neighbor. For now, we're doing everything in our power to accelerate that recovery. Haitian American communities in New York, especially in my district in Spring Valley and Nyack, and in other states, have welcomed victims with open arms. Our schools, such as the East Ramapo School District, have taken in children displaced by this natural disaster and are educating them. And likewise, Haitian Americans from all over the country have shown their sympathy for the people of Haiti and the generosity of the approximately $1 billion given to Haitian relief. And let me also say that as our schools are taking in Haitian children, we in the federal government have to compensate these schools to make sure that they have adequate funds to educate these children. The burden should not simply fall on the local communities where Haitian children are coming into those communities. The federal government has a responsibility to provide for the education, to help pay for the education. Otherwise, the education will be inferior not only for the Haitian children that are coming in, but for all children in that school district if we don't provide them with more money. The devastation in Haiti was so all-encompassing and the destruction was so complete, it's really hard to know where to start. Should the international community focus first on shelter, health care, education, agriculture, or economic development, or must we address all at the same time? And regardless of how we prioritize our response in Haiti, one question keeps coming to mind as I think about the crisis in Haiti, and you will see this in the title of today's hearing, as I mentioned, are we moving fast enough? More than 6 months have now passed since the earthquake, and so much is yet to be done. We simply must carry out the relief and reconstruction program as fast as we can, at this point, I'm not sure if we're moving fast enough. Of the 2 million people who have been displaced in Haiti, approximately 1.5 million are still in camps. As of earlier this month, only 5,000 transitional shelters had been built in Haiti. USAID's Haiti Task Team Coordinator Paul Weisenfeld said on the 6-month anniversary of the earthquake that the international community has promised to build 125,000 shelters for about 600,000 people by July 2011, but that will leave up to 1 million people without homes. And there are concerns that the Haitian government has not resolved land titling issues, so there aren't yet enough locations to resettle the large numbers of displaced people. Given this, again, I ask, are we moving fast enough? I want our panelists to please keep that question in mind when they give their testimony. Are we moving fast enough in providing shelter to displaced people in Haiti? And is the Haitian government moving fast enough to work out land title issues so that the land can be set aside for additional shelter? I've often heard that one of the greatest obstacles to rebuilding Haiti is that there is so much rubble from the earthquake which needs to be removed. So it is hard to get new construction going until this rubble is removed. I saw this with my own eyes when I visited in March. In fact, there's an estimated 25 million cubic meters of rubble to remove, but almost no place to put it but into the sea. As a point of comparison, the tragic destruction of the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001 created 560,000 cubic meters of rubble. Some have said it will take 2 years to remove the rubble, and estimates range up to 10 years. Once again, are we moving fast enough to deal with the rubble removal problem? And since the earthquake, various multilateral institutions, 48 countries, and a coalition of NGOs, non-governmental organizations, pledged approximately $10 billion towards the long-term construction efforts in Haiti. However, according to a recent article in the New York Times by former President Bill Clinton and Haitian Prime Minister Jean-Marc Belerive, co-chairs of the interim Haiti Reconstruction Commission, only 10%, this is the quote, of the $5.3 billion pledged by governments at a UN conference in March has been dispersed to the Haitian government without reliable schedules for disbursement, unquote. And that's from the interim Haiti Reconstruction Commission, quote. Clinton and Belerive say, quote, the Commission is unable to plan, finance projects, or respond quickly to immediate needs, unquote. It's hard to understand with a crisis at large, as it faced Haiti, that the money is not flowing faster. So I ask again, are we moving fast enough in collecting and dispersing the pledged money for Haitian relief? With respect to the IRHC, this critical body is only supposed to exist for 18 months to support the Haitian ministries and provide grants for rebuilding projects. But now, more than 6 months after the earthquake, it's still not yet fully staffed, as I mentioned to Dr. Shah. Indeed, it's possible that the IHRC still requires another month or two to get its act in gear. With the enormity of the task ahead and the key commission not fully up and running, again, are we moving fast enough in Haiti? And finally, we must not think that because the problem to be fixed is in Haiti, the answers are all to be found there. Here in Congress, we faced long delays on passage of the Supplemental Appropriations Bill, which contains $2.9 billion in support to support relief efforts in Haiti. We should have moved faster, but I'm glad that we finally have sent the bill to the President for his signature. Regardless, I think I've conveyed my concern, and I'm looking forward to this panel and today's witnesses so we can address the question, are we moving fast enough in Haiti?